So Greg, I've known for years through Korea. Great reputation, and it seems like he's always into something. Lived in Hawaii for a long time, was in the military, just found,
Why would he ever leave Hawaii to move here?
Family's overrated sometimes.
Ah.
he's got a couple grown kids, and I know on a personal note, I'm very glad he does what he does. I've sent a lot of people over to him, but also for a nonprofit I'm part of, he put the insurance together on it, and we ended up needing it for the first time since 1970s or something, that they actually had a claim. So it was insurance is one of the things you want to have it when you need it. You don't want to be without it when you do need it. So it's overrated, it's underrated, often overlooked. We'll make sure I clarify that.
Okay, hold on. Today's show is brought to you by Nelson Insurance Agency. More on them later.
I'm Hampton Scurlock.
I'm Milton Nalley, and we want to welcome you to the Investor Tribe podcast.
Late night grind, got the cash in the flow. Flipping these dreams, watch the portfolio grow. Brick by brick, stacking wealth in the zone. Investor Tribe, that's where the hustle is home.
We're fortunate enough to have Greg Nalley with us today with Nelson Insurance Agency. So I've known Greg for years. He's great at what he does. They can cover all types of your needs for insurance, and he'll get his information.
Let me just kind of why do I really need insurance? Do I really need insurance? Can't I just go bare? Why? Why do I even need to cover myself or anything like that? Is it that important?
It's important. You're going to want to have it when you need it. I'm sure Greg's going to get into that a bit today, but a lot of times your lenders require you to have it, or you just want to protect personal assets and your equity, so you want to have that insurance, and you have to want to have the right policy and have those items in place.
So it's good that we got Greg in the building today.
It is, and insurance can be captivating. It can be important. So don't fall asleep. Don't get rid of those preconceived notions you have about insurance, because we're going to delve into the exciting world.
Because this is far from a boring podcast.
Oh, very.
You know what I'm saying? Dude, we
like to have fun.
We like to have
jazz things up.
Yeah. So
I like to have fun. Look at the shirt. My wife won't let me wear this shirt anywhere. I think it's the pineapples. But Greg came from Hawaii, so I wanted to wear a Hawaiian shirt.
So you know what? It's you always want to have protection, and that kind of extends to varying metaphors. But you always want to be protected.
What are some of those metaphors, Milton?
This is a family show.
I was going to say we're going to cover your assets with insurance.
Okay, so Greg, can you help us out here, because clearly we don't know what we're talking about. So how did you get into the business?
20-year class reunion. I had 2 years left in the Air Force to retire. One of my buddies said, "What are you going to do when you retire?" I said, "Well, my bachelor's is in computer science, my master's is in human resources, but I don't want to do either one of those." He goes, "You ought to come sell insurance." And you hear that word insurance, and you don't think of a good thing. You just don't think of good stuff. So the more I looked at it, as I got out, Liberty Mutual, out of 6 different offers I had, totally different jobs, Liberty Mutual had the best offer. So I went in, coming out of the military, I made Liberty Leaders my first full year in the business, which is the top 1% of the sales force at Liberty Mutual.
That's great, top 1%.
So they were like, "Okay, you did so well. Why don't you manage?" My manager went to California. So I just slowly moved up. It was all commercial business, $75,000 in premium up to $2.5 million. That was my area of expertise. And ended up managing 15 other agents, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. And it just kind of has grown from there. I say I didn't pick insurance. It kind of picked me. 22 years in the Air Force, some of the things I do to me are common sense or should be done. I get thanked like I went above and beyond. What's wrong with that picture? So it's made me feel appreciated and like I'm making a difference. People hate insurance, so if I can navigate, make it easy for them, I'm their new best friend. So
see, that's amazing, because when you're surrounded by mediocrity, it's always you're a standout. right?
Right.
You're a standout when you go above and beyond and helping people. And so it seems like your service to our country kind of helped, shape not only who you are, but your service as well to clients in the insurance field.
The approach to customer service.
The approach to, thanks. So, I mean, does that make sense?
Oh yeah, or I would I'd meet with these big companies, manufacturing, whatever, and I was cracking jokes the whole time. And when you can get people to laugh when they're talking insurance, I found that can be real. I'm saying, well, you're already paying me because I'm retired Air Force. You're already paying my pension. Thank you very much. Let me keep working for you. I've already been working for you for 22 years. Let me, and they would like that, or people support the military. I can't imagine the Vietnam vets coming home and what they dealt with back then and how we're treated now is, yeah.
Oh no, it's a complete difference. My dad came home from Vietnam. He, I often tell a story to different people that, my father, Milton Nalley, he volunteered.
Yeah.
He volunteered because in the Marines, they didn't take the draft early on.
Mm-hmm.
You had to volunteer. So if you were a Marine, going to Vietnam back in the late 60s, you were a volunteer and you really wanted to make it happen. He came home and just was treated like trash. And then he went back for another tour. And so it's just, but comparatively to the way that veterans are treated today and the way that they're integrated in society and how the reverence and the respect given for those sacrifices made is phenomenal. And so how did you were, like you said right before the podcast that you were, E8 Master Sergeant, correct?
Right.
And then you served the country for over 20 years. And then you wanted to just sell insurance out of all the stuff you could have done.
Well, you know what?
That's all the cool things that you could have chose to do.
See, I don't look at it as selling insurance. I don't ever want to be looked at as a salesman.
Okay.
I want to be looked at as your advisor, like your financial planner, your banker, your important people, your CPA, people that you need, the important paperwork, your taxes.
That makes sense.
And
that makes sense. Yeah.
I want to be that trusted advisor. So when I'm looked at like that, I don't ever look at what commission I'm getting. When I'm comparing companies for somebody, I never look at that. I'm looking for the best coverage, whatever they need. When I got on as a board member for CREA, there was no active policy in place. And I'm like, we're putting our personal assets out there to volunteer. We're not getting paid. But yet we can be sued and that person can come after us personally for being on the board. So getting that policy in place came in handy, 2 years after having it, and saved CREA probably a lot of, let's just say.
A small fortune.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
And a lot of headache, right?
Oh my gosh. The sad part about it is, we had that policy in force, but the very sad part is it could have been resolved at a lower level without going that far. But that's how things happen. Probably 90% of claims I see on the general liability for companies, they're not at fault, but they need to use that to protect them so they're not out of pocket. And that's why they have that policy. They're 90% of the time, they're not at fault. So that's why you have it.
That makes sense.
You want to protect your assets, protect your property. I know we were talking about one of the first realtors I worked with, 20 plus years ago. We sold a house. We didn't own it any longer, so we canceled the insurance and got a call the day after we sold the house saying, "Oh, do you still have your insurance because a tree fell on the house this morning?" And the person who had bought the house didn't have their insurance in place at closing.
Oh boy.
I guess didn't have it in force the next day, and it was just bad luck, on their part, a poor planning that they didn't have the insurance in place, and bad luck that the tree fell on their house. It was actually struck by lightning, so it was a healthy tree.
Oh,
no
act of God.
God.
Right.
It hit a Cadillac in the driveway and smashed part of the front of the house.
Cadillac has coverage.
Cadillac has yes. So I guess the Cadillac was covered if he had car insurance, but they didn't have property insurance.
He can live in the new car.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? They totaled the car. He can live in the car now.
They were calling us to see if we could put a claim on our insurance. We're like, we sold the property. We ended our insurance when we sold the property. And I don't think legally you're allowed to insure something you don't own. Or you can't insure a property you don't own. Or, But so we'd had it canceled, and their agent was mad at our real estate agent, but our real estate agent couldn't do anything. So if you have. You hear people talk about going naked or not having coverage on properties. It can be very important, and you don't know you need it, or you really want to have that coverage in place if you need it.
Absolutely. I had a Golden Corral franchise that I offered for many years, employment practices liability, and that's for anybody with employees. You can't control what those managers do. So say they sexually harass somebody, and they do it to a few people, and then all of a sudden you got 5 people coming and complaining. That could be 5 claims on that. And so they declined it every year. I'd offer it at renewal. And then he called me about halfway in the year. That coverage you've been trying to get me get the last couple of years? We're going to need that now. It cost them about $90,000 out of pocket, which could have cost them like $2,500 for the policy and another $1,500 for the deductible. I'm just saying, you got to have the coverage in place when the action happens. So
you know what that says is that insurance is very boring until you need it.
Yeah, and that's usually when people read their policies.
All of a sudden, insurance is very important. And so I think as investors, right, it's super important for you to be appropriately insured. And this is the Investor Tribe podcast. And so we work with a lot of investors that are first-time investors or even investors with portfolios. And so can you speak to the new investor, the person that just literally is buying their first flip or buying their first hold, or like what type of insurance will they need in order to adequately protect themselves?
Well, a lot of people don't understand the difference between actual cash value and replacement cost. If you have a loan, the bank's going to dictate what they want. And if you give them an actual cash value and then they come back and say, no, we need replacement costs. So the first thing is, I always ask, is the bank requiring, what's their requirements? Because you don't want to get the policy and then, oh, no, we need this on it. Oh, when you tell me that in the first place, now we got to go amend the policy, endorse it already, more paperwork for everybody. So, so that's, we see that a lot.
Are you sick of living paycheck to paycheck? So was I. That's one of the main reasons we started the Investor Tribe. We want to encourage you to join where you can learn, you can find deals, you can fund those deals. There's community and so much more. We want you to skip the guesswork, join the tribe. Go to invtribe.com today. As far as like there's a difference between the cash value and you said that there's the replacement value.
Right.
And so a lot of lenders, so back to your story, Hampton, a lot of lenders are thinking, well, you know what? You got to have that before we close on the loan.
Correct.
Like you better have that before you
like
close on the loan.
flood.
So whether it's flood and all that, and so whether you're in a floodplain or if you're in a fault line for earthquake insurance and all the things, but what were you were speaking to the recommendations that you had for first time investors that's just trying to buy a flip or a hold.
Yeah. So the actual cash value, you're going to get what it's actually worth, whereas replacement cost, you're going to get what it's going to cost to replace it. And there's a certain amount you got to have on there that if you have a loan, you're going to be required to carry a certain amount on the dwelling coverage. So you need to know how much you got to have on the dwelling coverage. The big thing to watch out for these days is the deductible. These companies, they do not want to pay for new roofs anymore. So you'll see, 1 or 2% deductible options. And, that adds up when you got $1 million building. It's no longer that $1,500 or $5,000. It gets up there. So you got to watch for that. But that's because they don't want to pay for new roofs. But if they're 10 years or newer, some carriers 15 years, they're good to go. If you have something older than that, like auto owners, they're not touching anything over 15, and they've been writing rental dwelling properties for years. They were the first ones to write Airbnbs, and so they've been really one of our top carriers at probably my last 10 years. They've been at the top of thousands of carriers that we represent. And I tell people, they say, "You insurance people." I say, "No, I don't work for those carriers. I work with and for you." So,
that does speak to a big concern people have.
And you can, like you said, you represent thousands of companies, so you can find a product or coverage for many people that if they're in a unique situation, or they need coverage for a specific unique property or items. You've got a wide variety of offerings and companies and policies you can offer a lot of people.
Absolutely. I've been doing things like slingshot rental places in Florida, boat rental places, wave runners. I mean, real high-risk stuff on the bays and that. And there's not a lot of carriers that do that, but I've been doing some of that for about 15 years and was just down in Florida. And the cool thing about that is seeing work stuff, but also seeing some of my old Air Force buddies that retired down there and get together. It's like Air Force family, and we go to their house for dinner, and we go to their beach, go play golf, tennis, whatever. And it's you got to mix fun. You work hard, play hard, and you got to know when to do those.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you ready to flip your first house or finally flip one the right way? Create energy, engage talent, own the results. You can go to invtribe.com and sign up for the Flip Savvy course. Sign up now and start building your path to real estate wealth.
I've got kind of not a funny story, but I remember when I got into investing, one of the first calls I made, I was buying two little houses, and they're very cheaper properties many years ago, and I called the insurance agent that my parents had used, and I was quite a bit younger. I said, I need to get insurance on a property, maybe two properties. I think trying to buy two, was at least going to get one. And they said, okay. And they asked for the name, the age, the address, the square footage, what it's made of. And this is, early 2000s. And they said, okay, we'll get a quote for you. They said, when are you moving in? Or do you already live there? I was like, no, I'm not moving in. This is for an investment. They go, oh, we can't help you. Like, they didn't hang up on me, but they're like, why'd you waste our time? We can't. I was like, you should have asked that initially. I said, told you, buying investment property. He didn't hear the investment property part. He just heard a house and was getting the information. So some carriers won't cover investment properties. They only want owner occupant. So a lot of the big name companies that you need to call a broker or somebody like yourself to get coverage, the appropriate coverage for these rental properties that are going to be being renovated or have renters in them versus a normal home that you live in, your owner occupant policy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the big thing about being a broker is knowing these carriers' appetites, and they come visit us quarterly or send us emails all the time with what they're doing now, what their top things they're writing now. Like I said, Airbnb was hard to find people before, and now there's all kinds of carriers that are doing it.
So I heard you wanted to live paycheck to paycheck. Oh, wait, you don't? Sweet. Join us each week on the Investor Tribe podcast. Get out of the rat race and learn how to earn passive income on the Investor Tribe podcast. Any stories, I guess, insurance related or investor related on things you want to have in your policy or things to consider or to review before you sign the binder, I guess.
Well,
sign the insurance documents.
Let's say you get a policy on a property you're going to flip, and you're going to do a rehab. So we do a builder's risk policy on it. And you're in the middle of builder's risk. You got money from a hard money lender. That's one of our CREA members. And they go out to view the property, and the property's totally gone. They're coming to see the progress of the rehab on the money they lent out, and that property is totally, and they call the person and say, are we sure we got the right address? Here's the address we have that we gave you the money on the loan and where I thought we saw already. And so they realized the subcontractor that they hired to demo a small area demoed the whole house. Any rate,
that's what makes demo. That gives demo a whole new meaning.
oh my gosh.
Like, how do you mix those things up? Hey, I need you to do a demo over on 123 Main Street, and you literally go demo the house. You raise the entire house. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Something similar. A house got demo that wasn't necessarily supposed to, or
They demoed the wrong house.
There's no coverage for that.
Bruh, they demoed the wrong house. Like, okay, wait a minute. So I send somebody over the demo. I give them instructions. Hey, I need you to take this wall out. I need for you to take the flooring out, and I need you to do the clean out. They said no.
Let's see the contract.
No. They said no. They went out and demoed the entire house.
Right. Where was the contract that was supposed to be signed between them and the subcontractor?
Yeah.
To see what exactly was requested.
That's why people have to take Flip Savvy, because literally you have to give clear instruction. That's a failure. Spell it out, get it in writing. So how did you work through all that?
Yeah, what happened? What happens
Well,
in that case?
I was glad I wasn't the. It was another person that went to that hard money lender that I don't deal with. It was the hard money lender that was getting with me, so I didn't have the coverage in place. They were asking me, they sent me a copy of the person's policy. Is there coverage on it? I said, there's no coverage for something like this. It's got to be a covered cause of loss, that somebody demolishing. Now, the subcontractor that demolished it, they have coverage. Go get it from them. So I think what ended up happening, though, was the insureds had to pay out of pocket. And they were two attorneys that had, so hopefully they had money and wasn't all going to pay their school loans back. So.
Mercy. And so I would hate to be the contractor.
Exactly.
I would hate to be the contractor in that case. And so I think you're able to not only do the auto. Do you work in life at all or anything like that?
We do it all.
You do it all.
I focus
Okay.
more on commercial.
Commercial and
So
just
like a portfolio of single family homes.
Right.
Or builder's risk on
right.
homes. We do in the commercial lines. But,
So do you mind if we get in the weeds a little bit about?
Sure.
So
And he did say Airbnbs and businesses.
yeah,
as
he
well,
does that
so-
too. And so yeah. So
pretty much anything.
So-
I've got people.
the weeds a little bit, not too far deep. If I'm getting a house, I'm buying a house, and I buy a house from Hampton, and I've actually done this. Now, what I haven't done is do the work myself. However, I got a couple of guys that I hired for a 6-pack and a Netflix password share. Okay. So I was able to get them in. And look, man, I had to find somebody
deal's
that
a
was
deal.
a deal is a deal.
$20 is $20.
Right. I said, look, man, this 6-pack here is cold. I'm there every Friday with a 6-pack. And I've done that. Like, I've literally had houses where I don't even drink myself. I don't drink, but I've literally brought 6-packs to the spot, and they're like, hey, and they were cheap, right? So
the people or the beers?
Both. I bought them. I bought them cheap beer, and they were cheap. And so, what my question to you is more so along the lines of that hiring inexpensive talent. It's almost the equivalent of doing the work yourself, so to speak. They're not necessarily insured. I've since sold the house, so don't be coming for me.
Yeah.
But just to even think that that it's like working on a house yourself, and so you
So
get
you're
into
acting as like the
builders.
general contractor.
I am, and I've done that several
I do that a lot
times.
for a lot of our CREA members.
Okay,
I'm
yes.
doing a few right now.
Yeah.
Just to protect their assets.
Correct. Yeah.
Because when something happens, that person that feels wrong comes after everybody. So that's what happens with the insurance, and that's why you want to be covered. Okay, who's involved in this? They'll come after everybody to try to get anything, and most of the time they're wrong, in the way they're thinking or whatever.
Yeah. Managing real estate can be complicated. Get one thing off your plate and contact our friends at Liberty Mutual, or call 1-800-266-06 KY-44 and mention Milton Nalley. You can also use my code KY-444689 for your free quote today.
So your contractors, the 6-pack, you sold the house. Did one or two of those guys, if I was a betting man, I'd say at least one of them had a beer belly, and at least one had 2 first names, like a Billy Bob or John
Why are you
something.
stereotyping?
I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
We're in Kentucky, and am I right?
You're not from around
So
here,
what if you're right? I mean, that's not the point. The point was that I was able to get some inexpensive labor, and the payment was the payment, man.
But what if they got drunk and burned the house down, or drunk and started demoing? Is this where you're going?
Okay. So this kind of happened. So basically,
You called it.
It kind of happened. So basically, I need you to write a policy for me. I need you to help me get me out of trouble. That's the reason why we're having this conversation.
You gotta have it in place before.
You gotta have it in before. So I'm trying. But this is for a friend. How about that?
How about
This is for a
you're
friend.
talking about this. This is what we get a lot. Umbrella policy. I need one of those so it go over everything.
It does, yeah.
It has to go over the underlying policy that's in place. It doesn't just go over everything. So it would go over your auto liability, your property liability, your boat liability, your motorcycle liability. So that's a big perception on umbrella policies, a misperception.
Yeah, that does make sense, and so it's really good for us to have this conversation with an expert, because if you have needs that need to be met in this arena, I think we need to give Greg a call and just or email, and we can reach out and so if somebody wants to contact you, how would we do that?
Yeah, best way, you can call or text me at 502-216-0642. And best email for me is greg@nelsoninsurancegroup.com.
Awesome.
And if they want to look you up, it's Greg Nalley, Nalley.
And so thank you for joining us on the Investor Tribe podcast. I think the tribe can benefit a lot from you. And it was a really good conversation we were able to learn a lot and really make insurance exciting, because bottom line,
you want to cover your assets. So call Greg, get that done. He'll be looking out for you.
Y'all just
You're
love to do that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, y'all definitely love to do that. So, all right. So I'm Milton Nalley.
And I'm Hampton Scurlock.
And we'll catch you on the flip side of the Investor Tribe.
The Investor Tribe podcast is brought to you by the Investor Tribe, all rights reserved, featuring Hampton Scurlock and Milton Nalley, executive producer Drew Cookenmaster, produced and distributed by Bespoke Marketing.